Hi everyone, Dave here, Fit and Healthy Forever. A little bit of something different today. I've got my friend Nathan here, who teaches a lot of boot camps. So we have different ways of exercising, if you like, but aimed at the same goal, at the end goal. I've always done the bodybuilding type training because it's what I'm passionate about, but I don't decry any other type of training. At this moment in time, it's just not for me. I know people who do CrossFit, I know people who do boot camp with Nath, and they love it. So there's more than one way to skin a cat. So what we want to talk about today is the different things that we teach or do or train ourselves, and how it's all aimed at the same goal, but you don't have to do one particular type of exercise. So I'll hand you over to Nathan. He'll introduce himself and tell you a bit about what he does, and then we're just going to discuss it from there, the different ideas we have and the different ways we do things.
Cheers, Dave. I'm Nathan. Like Dave says, I do quite a few boot camps and I teach different studio-based classes as well. I've been a qualified fitness instructor and personal trainer for about 4 years now, and kind of just fell into it really with some spare time and got passionate about it, and was told that I inspire and help motivate people, so it made sense for me to do the qualifications as well. I also teach indoor cycling, spinning you may call it as well, and that's something I'm really passionate about as well. I've never really been that much into the bodybuilding sort of aspect that Dave likes to train himself and follow. That's his passion, it's not really been one of mine. I don't say that that's not something that people should do either, because I do a little bit of weight training myself around my classes and stuff, but it's never been something that I've been totally passionate about, to be honest with you. I kind of like to get my goals and my progress from different variety of methods, whether it be circuit training, whether it be kettlebells, whether it be CrossFit stuff, spinning, or those kind of things. They float my boat, and obviously Dave likes what he does, and that keeps him motivated, and that keeps me motivated. So that's just a bit of background about me, and we'll have a bit of chat about different things now, I suppose.
Well, what I think we both agree on is the best type of training is the one that you can stick to, or the one you're most passionate about.
Yeah.
So whatever that is, it may be outdoor cycling, it may be weight training, it may be spinning classes, boot camps, whatever it is, it's what you can stick to, what you enjoy the most. I don't believe in doing anything that you don't enjoy, whether it be diet, which hopefully we'll do another one on diet a bit later on, but for now we're sticking with exercise. But whether it's diet or exercise, don't eat or do anything that you don't enjoy. There's always ways of working around things. Now, one thing I was keen to ask Nathan is, I know he does some outdoor boot camps, like in the park in the summer. How do you sort of teach that? Do you take props with you, or do you do it all with the sort of body weight?
I keep it varied, to be honest, Dave. I originally started and tried to do them with minimal equipment, so I run them in various parks throughout the city during the summer days. It needs to be, for me to start with, it needed to be with minimal equipment, because I don't really want to overcomplicate things for my clients and the participants in there. If you've got lots of equipment, you have to do lots of demonstrations, and people might not be familiar with certain bits of kit that you take along, and the technique might not be quite right. So to start off with, it's easier to just focused on body weight to start with, but trying to keep it fun mainly, so people enjoy it. Because like you touched on, if people aren't enjoying it, then it's totally pointless in them doing it, because they see it as a chore, they're not going to be consistent with it, and they're more likely to quit and get frustrated. They're not going to get the results that they want, so it needs to be fun. So, and then slowly but surely, once I'd got a bit of a group going and some regulars, I mean, new people come all the time, but I'd introduce a little bit of kit that wasn't that complicated to use, whether it be a set of dumbbells, or I use like a mobile suspension training system that I can hook up to a fence, but there's lots of different stuff that you can use in parks anyway, benches, steps, hills, and little bits like that you can just get in there and keep it varied. So yeah, when I do it in the parks, I don't really like to use all that much equipment, because it can get too complicated, and I don't want it to be dangerous for people that aren't used to using that kind of stuff
I
either.
suppose as well, you've got to carry that equipment with you there.
Yeah, totally. There's just me. We have a meeting place, and I don't want to be lugging lots and lots of kit around. And if I like to keep mobile around the park as well, I don't like to stay in one area. I like to keep it moving, and the scenery's different. Stop it getting boring. So yeah, lugging all that kit around, it's not ideal really.
Also, you know, when you're actually teaching the class, do you find that you can participate a lot, or do you spend a lot of time watching people's sort of technique, correcting them? Can you split it and do a bit of both?
Initially, when I first started it, and everybody was pretty new to the whole setup and the concept of doing it outdoors and that, I didn't participate all that much myself, because I had to be very aware of the surroundings and people's technique, and obviously there's health and safety issues as well with being in the outdoors. But as I got a regular following and people that were attending regular, and you don't need to focus on those people that much, because their technique and awareness develops, so you can sort of instruct them in the first instance, and then they get on with it themselves pretty much. And so yeah, I take part in it myself from time to time, but it does depend on what kind of mix of members that I've got that come along. But I do like to participate myself, because obviously it's a good workout,
and something you're passionate about as well.
Yeah, so. Totally. And I got into fitness through doing classes, and I was always more motivated and inspired if the instructor was doing something that they were teaching themselves, because you kind
practice
of think,
what you preach type of thing.
Yeah, totally. So I like to get involved, but it very much depends on the broad mix of people that I've got there at the time, I suppose.
Do you find, I found when I've worked in gyms, you can, to a degree, you can control what they do in there, but you can give them as much advice on diet, but once they go away, you can't control what they do outside of the gym. So I used to find people coming back and saying, oh, well, I haven't lost any weight, this hasn't weight, that hasn't weight. And you dig more into what they're eating and stuff, and or when you're not there, they're exercising, and you pick up on things straight away. So you can, it's frustrating that you can only control while you're there. You've got trust to people doing the right things outside of the sessions.
Yeah, totally. It takes a lot of self-discipline, obviously, and people will come to you and say that they're committed to whether it be an exercise plan or a nutrition plan.
Yeah.
But once they're out of your session, your class, or whatever you're doing with them, it's totally left up to them. And some people, they will skimp and scrape, and then but they'll come back with all the excuses, and they won't blame themselves. They'll blame you, or they'll blame the plan, or they'll blame the system that you've got for it. So yeah, totally, I do find that, and it does get frustrating as a trainer,
because you know what you're giving them's right.
Yeah.
What I do like is you always call it a plan. I hate it when people say this diet, because basically, even though I have a lot to do with like ketogenic diet, to me it's a pattern of eating.
Yeah.
The diet always suggests that you're restricting calories.
Correct, yeah.
So I like it to be called a plan, although I slip sometimes and say diet. I try never to say diet, because it gives people the idea that, oh, I'm going to have to restrict calories straight away.
Totally, there's been this conception of dieting for years, hasn't there? And it's usually a quick and short period of time where they want to lose a certain amount of weight. They focus on the numbers, and it's very, very restrictive, and there's always that rebound after. So I don't like to use the word diet myself either.
Well, exactly. I know what you're saying, because I've always said to people, look, you can go Weight Watchers and you can go Slimming World as much as you want. That is calorie restricted. So at some point in the future, you have to come off that. You can't sustain that forever. It's not healthy enough. Yeah. When you come off that, science has proved that you will pile the weight back and more. And people are just not getting this, because I'm getting back to Weight Watchers because it worked last time. Yeah. If it worked last time, you wouldn't be going back. Yeah. For my way of thinking. So it is frustrating. And as I say, I'd like to invite you back sometime. We'll go a bit deeper into diets and stuff. Totally. We've got different ideas on that for the same goals. Mm-hmm. Sticking with exercise, I've always found as well that we touched on this before we sort of came on air, and it's like people say, especially women, I found this with women mostly, I don't want to touch weights because I don't want to get big. And I had one girl once who said to me, every time I touch weights, my shoulders go like this. So I was like, well, can you show me? Because I'd love to get my shoulders to go like that. And
Yeah.
It's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish.
Yeah.
I know women haven't got the testosterone levels that men have got, so they're never going to get big.
No.
So if you're listening to this, women, please train as hard as you can. Train your ass off, because you're not going to get stupidly big. I've been trying for 28 years and I can't get stupidly big. And I'm so meticulous with everything that I do. So please don't think that you can't train hard because you're going to get big. And I think Nathan might have the same opinion on that.
Yeah, totally. I have the same. I have females approach me, and the minute you introduce dumbbells or some form of resistance into whatever exercise or program or class that you're doing, they think, oh, I don't want to get bulky. I don't want to get massive. Like Dave says, I don't want these big shoulders. And it's totally not in your genetics as a female for that to happen. Far too much estrogen flowing through your body for it to have that kind of effect. But resistance is very, very important, and it's a progression that I take with my clients. So I like to start off with a bit of body weight stuff to obviously get the general sort of idea of what somebody's capabilities are and that, and then the only way to progress is to overload, and the only way to overload is to add in resistance,
of course,
i.e. weights, or take the body weight exercises plyometric from isometric, and so on and so forth. So yeah, ditch the conception that it'll be massive. Resistance is massive, as well as in any fat loss plan as well that I introduce. You need to be shifting some weight because it helps with your metabolism and growth. Really does.
I was watching recently some of the World Championship athletics, and you look at some of the women there and the muscle tone that they've got, and anybody who tells me that doesn't look healthy, I'd argue the toss with, because people like, she's retired now, Jessica Ennis, absolutely amazing physique.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, and there's another girl just come on, Katrina Johnson.
That's it, yeah.
Absolutely. For a girl 22, is she?
Yeah.
Amazing. You don't think they've got that by doing the odd boot camp or the odd weight training session even there. That is commitment.
Yeah.
But they just look amazing, and they will train their asses off. So nobody's going to tell me that by training your ass off you're going to be huge. They aren't huge. You have control over how big you can get. If that was the case that you were going to get big, you back off if you think you're getting too big.
Yeah, totally.
And you maintain. You're in full control of it if you want to be.
Yeah, so, I've got a female friend of mine, and she used to be a very good standard swimmer. Now, from swimming, she developed quite broad shoulders.
Yeah.
But as you touched on there, that's because she was consistently using that body part.
Yes.
Her arms and shoulders were continuously working, so they had no choice but to grow and for her body shape to take that form. Now she stopped swimming, and that broadness and thickness of her shoulders, that decreased over time. So like Dave says, if you find that a body part is getting how you don't like it, it's too big or you're too bulky in a certain area, not that it's going to be like you're going to end up looking like a man, but you just regress that a little bit and focus on somewhere else. If you've got to keep it symmetrical, you want it, but don't neglect the fact that you're going to throw a bit of weight around, and because it has more benefits than just increasing the size of that one single body part.
Most definitely, yeah. I think as well, because I've always been into bodybuilding, and people see the people that I meet, photographs of the people I meet at shows and stuff, they say, oh, you wouldn't want to be like that. That's a personal choice. No, I wouldn't want to be like that, but I understand that the passion and the drive and the commitment they've put into getting to that. It's like you may play football on a Sunday morning. You're never going to be like Jamie Vardy or whatever, but it doesn't stop you pushing yourself and trying as hard as you can to be as good as you can.
Yeah.
All you can do is be the best that you can be at something. And if that takes you much further than you thought, great. If it doesn't, as long as you enjoy it and you're passionate, keep doing it.
Yeah, totally. Perfect example as well is the standard six-pack. Now, not everybody's abs look like these cover models. Every single person's ab definition is made up differently. So you might have this idea in your head that you want to look like, but everybody's genetics and makeup is totally different. Dave may have had his bodybuilding idol, this picture of how he wants his physique to be over years, but the truth of the matter is, his body will only be the best his body can be.
Yeah.
It won't perhaps be that Arnold Schwarzenegger physique. He might not have that thickness of the shoulders and the really slim waist.
That's right.
But it's shouldn't stop you. It shouldn't hinder you or put you off wanting to work your ass off to get to where you want to be.
You want to be the best that you can be. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I think as well. I never craved a six pack because I was obsessed with getting bigger shoulders, bigger arms. I've sort of realised at my age that's just not going to happen now. It probably never was. But you have a dream and you're pushing it to the limit. Now, I've always found, this is just my personal opinion, most people who've got six packs don't have the huge, or shall we say, bigger muscles to go with it. Because when you're dieting down to get a six pack, you're going to lose a certain amount of muscle tissue.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. And I never wanted to lose that muscle tissue, so I never wanted to severely diet that much to get a six pack. So I'm probably leaner now than when I was in my teens, early 20s, but I still haven't got a six pack. And it's not something I crave. I crave the shape. I want wide shoulders, smaller waist, flaring legs. So I do the big exercises, I squat and I deadlift and I bench. And that's like Nathan says, you can only be the best that you can be. Don't say to you, I've done it, I've made the mistake saying I want to look like so-and-so. You can't look like anybody else. You can only look the best person that you can be.
Yeah.
So you've got to work with that. Work with what God give you and go for it.
Totally.
So, moving on then, there's other ways, we both discussed earlier on that we know people who do CrossFit. Now, there's a place for every type of exercise for me. In anybody's arsenal. It depends what you want to do, what you're passionate about. So I never decry anything, but there is one YouTube channel I watched called, I think it's called Exercises in Futility, and very wrongly they just slate CrossFitters, but I can see why they're doing it. CrossFitters give them all the ammunition they need. They were showing you the way they do pull-ups, for argument's sake, and this guy came on and did 100 pull-ups. There wasn't one decent pull-up in that 100. He was jerking his body, he was swaying to and fro. To me, that's giving people the wrong idea of how to do the exercise safely and for the best benefits. So looking at that, it could put you off. They really shouldn't be putting that stuff out there, but they do, and people they get thousands of views on it. I don't think all CrossFit's like that. I've not gone into it, but Nathan might know more than me on that.
Yeah, well, the pull-up technique that you're talking about there in CrossFit is called kipping, or they also do a different variety called butterfly. And as you said, it's very, very different from the kind of strict type of pull-up that you would have been used to doing yourself over the years. And I think it's sort of been developed to, and I'm not saying it's right and I'm not saying it's wrong, but I think it's been developed for efficiency purposes, as opposed to growing your lats and your back, which is what you're focusing on when you're doing your isolation. So when you're doing a CrossFit WOD, which is the workout of the day, they program these pull-ups and other functional exercises within the workout, and usually it's because you have a time limit to complete so many reps of so many different exercises and do as many rounds as possible. So I think those kind of techniques were developed
on a time scale as well, sort of.
Yeah, they were developed so as they don't get so fatigued in the area of that you would normally be isolating doing your standard strict pull-up. And it's just efficiency based, I think. Now it does look horrendous, and the technique
only because we're used to a different way, or I'm used to a different way. That's the only reason.
And the technique is very, very difficult to master, because I've tried it myself and that, and it's really, really hard to. I saw one of your videos actually the other week when you were training back, and you were showing the technique of doing a proper pull up, and I think it just stops that muscle fatigue. But those techniques, they do look awful to your traditional standard pull up. But I think that's why they chucked in there anyway.
One thing I do like about CrossFit, because I know people I've worked with in the past who post on Facebook, they do a lot of what I call the hardcore exercises, the clean and jerks and stuff like that, and the deadlifts. Granted, they're only doing 1 rep maxes, which if you want strength, that's great. It's not my way, but I very rarely do less than 6 to 8. But it's great to see girls getting into it.
Yeah.
And these are girls I'm talking about. And girls doing strength exercise, there's something really hardcore about it, and I like to see it. And the more people, the better for me. It's not a man thing; it's a woman thing as well. And like we touched on earlier, don't think you're going to get huge from doing it. This girl I know, some friends of ours in Reading, she's CrossFit mad, but in all honesty, she looks the best I've ever seen her. And she's only a slight girl. She's probably just over 5 foot and weighs nothing. But she's cleaning and jerking and trying to do pull-ups and stuff. And she moans about the exercises she doesn't like, but she looks so good on it. I think she knows she's the best she's ever looked, and I definitely say she is. So it's definitely got a place, and I think every sort of exercise regime has.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. I know quite a few CrossFitters, and there's quite a few CrossFit boxes that have opened up across the city, and that lots and lots of females, and I know lots of these females have tried other forms of, whether it be circuit training, whether it be kettlebell classes, aerobics, spinning and stuff, and they seem to find the groove, and I think the good thing about CrossFit is they've got a really good sense of community within what they do,
definitely,
and very encouraging, very motivational within there, and I think that's what I think. Sometimes people just want to be a part of something, and then they just find the groove within that. Don't get me wrong, I mean, there is some CrossFit females out there that are quite bulky, and that does come from doing consistent, those repetitions, clean and jerk, like you say, deadlifts and all those compound exercises, Olympic weightlifting, squatting, but I think that's just, for me, that's attractive. It shows dedication and commitment to whatever they're throwing themselves into. That might not be for some people, it may be, but that doesn't come from just throwing the dumbbells around once or twice a week at all.
I think it's a great point you touched on there about the community, because I know that the girl I'm talking about, they have a great community spirit there. They go out a lot together, they socialise, they never miss a session, and they love it so much. And that, to me, being passionate about something is what it's all about. Because I think Nathan touched earlier, if anything becomes a chore, you're not going to give it your best, and you're not going to do it regular. So you've got to find ways of finding something that you're passionate about. And I know the girl I'm talking about, she's been to the gym before and tried the normal everyday weight training, but when she found CrossFit, it's absolutely transformed her. And fair play to her, she loves it. And you've got to find something you're passionate about. Doesn't matter what it is. And as I said, we'll touch on diet another time, but some of the things with diets, you've got to be creative with your food. If you're not prepared to put the time in with whether it's exercise or food, you're not going to get the benefits. End of. You can't wing it. You've got to give your body the best. And one of the reasons I touched on things like Weight Watchers and Slimming World earlier, I don't think it's healthy enough, even in the short term, because if you look at salt intake, it's massive with that. If you look at fibre, they don't get anywhere near enough. I've looked at some of the sort of ready meals they do in Iceland, and to be honest, it's not the healthiest way to go. But in the short term, you could probably get away with it. But then, as I said, you come off it and you're going back to square one, and this is what you find. It's called yo-yo dieting, where they're on and they're off, and they're up and they're down.
I think with that though, Dave, as well, I mean, I know we're not really talking about nutrition all that much on this, but I think they find a sense of community within these organisations that they go to as well, and I think that gives them something to that helps them stick to it a little bit more, which is absolutely fine. If somebody can't motivate themselves to do it on their own, and they need some accountability, then that's great. We don't frown upon that at all.
No, definitely not. No.
But at the end of the day, what you're saying is totally right. Long term, you need to be making better lifestyle choices, and a shiny badge and a little sticker and a certificate at the end of reaching a numerical goal of weight loss. May give you that sense of feeling really, really good and you've accomplished something, but chances are you're not going to continue and maintain those choices that you've been making with that plan going forward, so you end up back to square one, like you say.
Well, someone made a comment recently on one of the channels I was watching. They said there's a reason Slimming World and Weight Watchers don't have 12-month or 2-year reunions, because something like 92 or 93% of people actually put the weight back on, because it's unsustainable over the long term. So, anything else you want to add, Nathan, on exercise?
No, like you said, really, I don't discredit bodybuilding or weightlifting in any way, shape or form. I like to incorporate that myself. It's totally down to the individual
Yes.
and what motivates them, and it's also very dependent on what goal you want to achieve as well. But I also think, like we said about the CrossFit boxes having this community as well. I think what I find with a lot of the people that come to my classes and stuff, they like that accountability, that familiarity with other people being there and them turning up at the same time each day, each night.
I think it's a great point actually, because I've always trained on my own. I've had the odd training partner, but I like to do things my way. So I don't do it for a community spirit, and I've never looked at it that way. So it's a great point. I totally understand why people want to do that.
Yeah.
But if it motivates them, yes. If they go in there just for the social side of it and not putting the work in, then
totally.
that's wrong.
Yeah. And you do get that.
I'm sure.
I get that in my classes. I get people turning up, and it's just about so that they can put a Facebook check-in on there, and they can say to their friends that I went and did this class, and they don't really put the effort in and they go through it half-assed. But if you're going to be 100% dedicated to something, you just got to find what fits your groove, and don't really worry about what anybody else thinks. Whatever works for you works for you.
Exactly. There's no right or wrong way, as he says. It's what works for you.
Totally.
There's also people who say, "Oh, I go to the gym 3 times a week." It's not how many times you go; it's what you do when you're there.
Yeah.
You could go once a week and put 100% effort in and get more out of it than somebody who does 4 times a week and it's half-assed.
Yeah.
So find out what's good for you. Just lastly, I would definitely, if you're struggling to motivate yourself, give Nathan's boot camps a try. Where can they reach you, Nathan, if they want to?
I'm on Facebook, Nathan Orp on Facebook, or I also have a Facebook page as well. It's called The Total Package. That's my brand. Or if you want to private message Dave, I'm sure he could put you in contact. Yeah. We'll be heading into indoors over the autumn and winter months. It's not too nice for people running around in the rain and the dark. Yeah, I usually take it into a studio at Osmer Academy in Blurton. Used to be Blurton High School, but we use a little bit more equipment and it's studio based there, nice and warm. But yeah, I appreciate that. And if you're interested, definitely come along. And it's for all types of abilities and people from walks of life. Don't think that if you've never done a class before that you're going to come and you're going to end up destroyed. We always give you at least one session to find your groove. No, joking aside, beginners, advanced people, it's for everybody. I cater for everybody's needs and abilities.
So I think if you're in the Stoke-on-Trent area, definitely give it a try, because until you try something, you don't know what your passion is always. You've got to try different things. I've always said this with kids at school and exercise. You need to be able to try all different sports to find out what you enjoy and what you excel at. If you don't try these things, you can stand at a distance and say, "Oh, that's not for me." How do you know till you try it? Try different things. Try one of Nathan's boot camps. You may find out it's the best thing you ever did. But if at the end of the day, if you tried it and you don't like it, I'm sure Nathan wouldn't hold it against you. You give it a go, and you know it's not for you.
Totally, I've had people come and it's not for them. But the big thing with my boot camps is people have this misconception because it's called a boot camp that it's going to be something military army and it's going to be really grueling. Now, don't get me wrong, I'll work you hard, but it's enjoyable. It's a nice environment and it's varied, and that's what I want to help people progress. I've had so many people dismiss it, but then once they come and tried it, they were like, "Do you know what, I really enjoyed that," and they come back and they come back and they come back. Got 50-year-old guys that come who never thought that they'd be doing some of the stuff that they've done or making the progress that they have, but if they didn't give it a try, they would have never found out. So yeah, don't let it put you off the fact that it's called a boot camp.
Definitely not. Give it a try. Anyway, that's the wrap for now. Thanks everyone for taking the time to listen. Stay fit and healthy forever, and we'll be back with one on nutrition next time. Okay.